I feel like sharing my somewhat maybe unpopular horror movie opinion. This is just something that gets under my skin. It's stuck with me since I was, what was it, 2001, I think. Pretty sure it came out. So, just before I was a teen and everything. That's, a normal time to have these sort of things stay with you and everything. And yeah, it just still, I find it super. I don't use the word genius a lot, but maybe even just some of the ways that they went about things for this movie, like genius. So I wanted to give it like an actual, just compare it to something else, just to, it may be obnoxious to some people, but I find The Ring to be more unsettling, more disturbing in different ways than Hereditary. I know that's a big one. People will be like, "Oh, it's the scariest movie that's been released in this long," and a lot of people were like, "I didn't quite get it. It's not like I think I'm part of that. I didn't quite get it. I thought the ending was, pretty interesting and weird. It's like, wait, what was that?" And you sort of might get a little bit of goosebumps from the Hereditary ending and stuff. But like overall, there were so many times I like slow burns, but there was a lot of just they build the tension, but I'm just not feeling the tension. It's like you're just walking through the house with like looking terrified, like where's it coming from? And it's just like this goes on for 5 minutes and nothing happens. And I like Blade Runner 2049. That's my favorite movie in the last like maybe 15 years. What was that? 2017, I think. I love that movie. And that's a pretty slow burn and different thing. I love Nosferatu 1979. That one's very just atmospheric and gloomy and everything. It's like it depends. I feel like I didn't get what Hereditary was really trying to do. I don't know. Maybe I should give it a rewatch. I should give it a second chance. Really, I've only seen it once. But this one really, this is yeah. I know that the VHS also there's the one with the clear sleeve or whatever, but this is the one I got. Looks pretty cool. It's still I get it's almost like you get little flashbacks. Like I'll have nightmares about stuff with that and everything still. And even, for the longest time, and still I have that sort of doesn't make any sense, but that fear of like the TV turning on by itself, or just like that little bit of feeling stressed out when there's the TV static and the noise going and stuff. That's the part I think is sort of genius. It's like, a lot of things can be like, well, okay, this makes me scared that there's going to be a masked killer. This makes me scared that there's going to be a killer clown that's actually an alien, but he's in the sewer and he's going to come up, from the out of the sewer or come like open your um the drain in your shower, and there's like all sorts of different examples of things. You could be like, oh, aliens and killer aliens. There are so many things. This one, I thought I was just like, well, it comes from Ringu, the original Japanese. I saw that one once too. That was also very scary. They made like two or three sequels too. There's a sequel for this one, The Ring 2. I don't remember that well. I saw it in theaters. There were some scary parts, I'm pretty sure, but just like this one, really like, and it's also a great mystery story. Like they're like trying to be like, how is this happening? What the fuck? I think also it's almost too dark in a way in my book. Like different things, like anybody that hasn't seen it that's interested, I don't want to give too much spoilers, but ultimately, like Samara, the girl that you've seen crawling out of the TV and everything, it's like super dark, just what she deals with and then what ultimately happens to her and everything. It's just like almost like don't make movies with that sort of um but I still like the movie and everything. I haven't seen it in a long time because still I find it to be one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. There's just something about it with my mind and how I operate. It just really gripped me and pulled me in and also just like shook me, dude. I like the different like building like okay, what's happening? What's really happening sort of thing. It keeps you like on edge and also just the visuals and like yeah, I don't know. I actually don't know who the composer was, but they like different things that go. I just remember having things be like, again, that happens a lot, the jump scare sort of thing. I find jump scares pretty cheap, but in this movie, they only happen a few times, but they're just like the way that they make things look and the music that plays when it's just sort of zooms into this, and it's like, holy shit, dude. Like, I'm getting goosebumps thinking of the first girl, how she looked, the other dude that's like part of the mystery and everything. Like, that honestly, she turns the chair around. I'm getting goosebumps. Like, maybe a lot of people don't find that freaky. I've always been, I don't know, there's something about like when, well, I don't want to give away too much. Just the appearance of different things. I thought it was good, makeup and stuff to all sorts of things. But yeah, very dark backstory. Um, Again, to the point where it's I usually wouldn't even really like stuff like this stuff because sometimes there are things like this in real life, and it's like people do terrible things and everything. You know, even to people close to them. But yeah, just that whole thing with like the technology that was prevalent at the time and everything. These VHS tapes and these. It's getting towards the end of it, but still, well, it's still 2006, I think. But yeah, these tube TVs and VHS tapes, different electronics and things that everybody just about had, in this area of the world and everything, to turn that into something that could be like a conduit for a curse is like, that's a smart idea. Like, holy shit, that's interesting. And yeah, what better to make a curse than the darkest type of thing that can happen to a person or like with people close to you and everything. It's very super super disturbing. And yeah, I don't want to like build it up too much and be like, oh, it's just like terrifying and everything. But to me, everything about it is just sort of like checks the boxes of being like, yeah, this is pretty messed up. Like, I think it's there's something about that, the type of things that can happen in real life, and then not only like what happened to Samara and everything, but combining that with the curse and the supernatural sort of feel and everything. Yeah, the questions of like, maybe curses exist. It's like, who knows? I don't know. Not really. I'm not one of those people that like. There's probably a better explanation for things, but yeah, super scary movie to me. It's still, again, the visuals, the way things play out, the mystery. The mystery is great, and some of the things that it's just the places too. The things that they uncover in the certain places, it's really gripping to me. It's just, I don't know. Are you with me with that? Like, seriously, like The Ring. Do you find that to be a really good or a horror movie that's like you think it's good, but also deeply unsettling? And it's like, does it scare you? Do you find this scary? And if not, like, what kind of things do you find really scary? What things like really make you feel like, whew, like this is, whether it's the actual shock factor, being like seeing this quick jump scare sort of thing, or like the themes behind everything. To me, this just does it for me. I haven't watched it in a long time on it. Like, it freaks me out. It does. Like, I've seen a lot of again, I wanted to preface this by saying I'm not a huge movie buff, but I forgot to do that. And like, but they have been with me like all throughout my life. It's just like I'm not a person that just like constantly is getting this input of like more and more and more, like always watching stuff. I'd like to experience more and see. At this point in my life, though, I want more stuff that's like trippy. I like stuff that's unique. That's gonna be like, whoa, weird aliens, or like, like Lovecraft stuff or whatever. Dreams, madness. Uh, yeah, pretty much anything from the Lovecraft compilation thing. Like, that is just like really trippy to me. That sort of thing. Like, it sounds like some stoner should be like, dude, what if we're inside of an alien's dream? That's what reality is. Like, different things. I just think it's really cool, trippy stuff like that. And it really does sound like something somebody would say when they're just like first smoking weed. Be like, have you ever thought of this? Like, but yeah, probably less. And these days, even though this stuck with me, and I do find it very unsettling and different things. Like, a lot of times I don't like the themes of, different people meeting demise in really messed up ways, and or different things like, um a lot of times if it has like anything, I'm one of those whimsical, not whimsical, sort of outlandish. I like weird stuff usually, supernatural, ghosts and monsters and all sorts of shit. Usually, if it's something that can like really happen and be disturbing in real life, it's just like too dark for me. Like stuff we need, like, to me, I want my fantasy to be an actual fantasy, an escape from the grim reality that we face and everything. So like The Ring is, that's part of why it freaks me out, is because it's not exactly that part. It adds a spin to it to where it's like, oh, there's this curse, but still it's like, yeah, it makes sense that it freaks me out so bad and everything, because it's not exactly what I'm looking for in stuff these days. Probably from watching The Ring is like part of why I was like, oh, dude, that kind of makes me feel a little unwell. But other stuff like, with Silent Hill too, that's another good example of something. That one is sort of like with that years, you see that meme of like good for her or whatever. Sort of with Samara, it's like sure, she was a weird girl, but I'm not gonna give anything away. But I don't remember the details anyway. But it's like maybe Samara should sort of be, well, don't just go after random people, but sort of with like Silent Hill. It's like fucking Alessa and Sharon, but Alessa is like what she was put through is like just fucked up shit. Some of it, again, meshing real world. So much Stephen King, so much stuff is like that. Like it's got these real world traumas and problems and difficult things, like the most difficult things. But then it meshes it with supernatural and like cult stuff and all sorts of stuff. Very interesting, but yeah, it's certain things I like, they stick with me and I like to look back on, but they're still, it's like, it's super dark. And these days, I'm really searching for more outlandish stuff to where it's, yeah, takes me away from those nasty moments and grim realities and different things. Like the worst possible things that people are capable of, different people will carry out and everything. Sorry, not to be a downer. But yeah, that's just what I wanted to say is, yeah, this movie, I find it to be one of the scariest movies I've ever seen. And it just does things in such an interesting way. The story flow is really nice, and it just sort of, I mean, it's pretty linear and everything, like very much so. But it does also have some stuff to where it's like, oh, this happened at this point. It's linear, but they're uncovering things from the past. So, and but yeah, that's another thing. I feel like there's a huge group of people that weren't super scared or into Hereditary, but there's a lot of people that praised it. There was such a huge, I was so ready for it. I was like, dude, this is gonna be amazing. This is gonna be such a great story and such great everything. And it just, that's part of the problem. I feel like I don't like when things are hyped up too much, because then you're so ready for something to be the best thing ever. That's what people were saying. And I try to not be biased. I try to leave that behind and be like, no, just disregard all those things. But there's going to be some of that in your head when you're be like, I'm ready for the best thing ever. But yeah, what scares you, and what do you actually look for in movies these days? And what do you think is like a good story? What makes you feel like, holy shit, that's fucking freaky? I don't know. Anyway, love, I hope you feel well often.